Trust in institutions is crumbling alongside a rise in religious intolerance and social fragmentation. The G20 Interfaith Forum views social cohesion as an area in need of particular attention.
We want to have a world where different religions can be in one same room, discussing together and not being in conflict.
We need to really understand that we, are in it together, and if we're in it together, we need to collaborate, we need to work together, we need to find ways of having shared values.
We must go together, one holding the hand of the other. This is the only way in order to transform human reality.
We all need to work together because when we stand together in peace, it's easier for us to meet any challenges when there are any troubles in the world.
The loss of one life is like the loss of all humanity.
I can't simply close my eyes and deny or simply ignore the suffering that the whole humankind is going through.
The world we live in today and the globalization process have many effects. It could be positive, it could be negative also. Religious communities and religions or beliefs have always huge potential for mobilizing people or guiding peoples, building bridges. But there is also potential. Religions has a potential to divide societies into antagonistic or uncompromising fragments. Unfortunately, nowadays, the politicians or some economic interests stayed in the way of getting global peace or real building a social cohesion. So in this regard, religious communities or religious leaders playing important role, especially in nowadays geopolitical and socio-political life of society is very important, and they have a great influence to societies.
I think we're here because we have a common belief in that we are all in the same boat, that we really need to do something.
I think it's a universalist theme, and it speaks particularly to the idea of inclusion and the need to have everybody at the dialogue table so they can express their concerns and their needs.
No matter what religion we belong to or what faith we have, I think we all can contribute to each other to make this world better for everybody. So I think that's the beauty of a community, of a society that can work together for the well-being of the humanity.
All the voices matter, and this forum showed that including voices of indigenous, including voices of youth, women, and all kinds of groups that are usually underrepresented in such forums is incredibly important to find a solution.
We are talking and others is listening. That will not work anymore. Real dialogue, building projects, building platforms. We need also to create a roadmap, a real action plan after this dialogue platform. For sure, it's very important, like G20 Interfaith platform is very important to exchange of experiences, to build a network, to start a new project. We have a long way to go, I think. Be honest, we are trying hard and we achieved many positive results, absolutely. But building, when we're discussing social cohesion, we're mostly discussing about the absence of social cohesion, unfortunately, because of many issues, because of economical inequality, political marginalization or polarization, because of migration problems, etc. In Azerbaijan, we witnessed this, and after gaining independence, 1991, there was many problems. After the collapse of Soviet Union, there was many problems. Our geography is very complicated. There's living many different minorities and religious minorities or ethnic minorities, and it was complicated to manage this richness. And that's why the government decided to elevate the policy, the multiculturalism values to the state policy level and reflected it in the legislative system, which nowadays we see that was a very important step and for nation-building process. So the most issues is here promoting coexistence.
In terms of the crises that we're having, someone mentioned the word polycrisis. These things that we're having, we need to really understand that we, are in it together, and if we're in it together, we need to collaborate, we need to work together, we need to find ways of having shared values, shared common values that we can promote. And I'll give you an example. I'm from the UK, from London. A couple of weeks ago, we've had far-right riots, and it was initiated by the media misguiding people about a horrendous attack on 3 young children who were murdered. But what happened was, after those riots, the way the community came together and said, no, we're not going to accept this. In lots of parts of England, people came out in the streets like anti-protests against the far right and fascists, and saying that we're here together, we're with the immigrants, we're with the people of colour, and particularly we're with the faith groups. And it was, from my perspective, it was and I'm sure many people's perspectives, it was the Muslims who were being attacked. We were identified as the people who were attacked by the far right. So having other faiths coming together and saying that we're all, have shared values and we believe in peace and we want social cohesion, it's a very, very powerful message. And, the government listens when they see that people of all different faiths are coming together. The government listens.
Tema que eu achei brilhante.
It's a theme that I found brilliant, because living in society means knowing that we're not in bubbles. We cannot be individualistic, knowing that we must work at the individual level, first improving what is wrong in us.
I see that we have this opportunity to learn more about diversity, to learn more the importance of about the richness of diversity, and that diversity is actually not a problem at all.
I've got a beautiful anecdote. There's a mosque in the UK that was, I think it was going to be attacked, or there were protesters basically lined outside the mosque. And the imam from there, Adam Kelwick, what he did was he and his community inside the masjid, they cooked food. Because the protesters are lined up for hours, because they're going to come and attack the mosque. What did they do? They took the food, took it out, gave it to the protesters, and said, please, you're hungry, protest it after, eat first. So then people started asking questions, and it just diffused so much, and people said that we want to come and visit your mosque. So it was a beautiful way in which, as you mentioned, how can we, get people who have different sort of views. It's about knowing the other. I think that is what's vital.
Some of the key takeaways from the forum so far that I had from the sessions, I would say there are 3. One is that we all need to work together because when we stand together in peace, it's easier for us to meet any challenges when there are any troubles in the world. Second is about inclusion, that all the voices matter. And this forum showed that including voices of indigenous, including voices of youth, women, and all kinds of groups that are usually underrepresented in such forums is incredibly important to find a solution. Thirdly, there is a clear feeling that today something is not working in this world. Each country has its own peculiarities. It's all about our approach when we work with youth is we bring them together, we discuss, they talk about their similarities, differences. One of the approaches that we use is that it's okay to disagree. I think this is one of the common threads all across our youth forums that we're organizing, is that when you meet, it's okay to have different opinions, and sometimes you don't need to find a common ground. Sometimes you just need to understand that, or have sort of an open mind that someone else can have a different opinion, and that's totally normal. I can give you one example of one of the activities that our fellow introduced. It's interreligious iftar. So despite this being, iftar is a very Muslim tradition during Ramadan, right? But she would bring different people from different religions and different backgrounds together for one particular event that follows one religion. But at the same time, you know, you don't have to be Muslim to come to this interreligious iftar. As a Christian, as a Jewish, as Baha'i, you know, you can come and learn about the religion. You don't have to accept everything what is practiced or what is being believed into, but some sort of level of respect, acknowledgement, understanding, and friendship. That what these activities, you know, try to bring together. Food is the secret to peace.
The youth, if you see the data that we have nowadays, the youth represents a good amount of the population in different parts of the world, and also a good part of the population that wants to influence politics, that they are also trying to bring their own issues to the agenda and sometimes not being represented at these types of spaces. Our work is to try to have this space so we can input as well for these different topics. So for example, I work with gender and race, not only with the youth. So it's also one more topic, you know, how we can bring young women, how we can bring indigenous people, how we can bring Afro-descendant people to be at the stage, because the space for us is not always secured. And as a consequence, our demands and our needs sometimes are not always represented in these spaces. I believe that our role as youth is that we are going to be probably the future decision makers, and we are going to build a lot of what is to come in the next decades, not only in terms of interfaith dialogue, but also in terms of the world that is being built in the next decade. If we try to influence as well the youth to be more, how can I say, if the youth is participating a bit more on interfaith dialogue, we also prevent the youth not getting into extremist thoughts and extremist movements. We also build a society that is not only more cohesive, but also that is willing to discuss religious diversity and also to promote a more peaceful world. So we have a lot of concerns as well on the type of youth that we are bringing in the future. We want to have a world where different religions can be in one same room, discussing together and not being in conflict.
The recognition and understanding of the other is fundamental. We want to have an actual dialogue, a constructive dialogue. At CAICID, we believe in dialogue being inclusive, necessarily inclusive. This is reflected through a lot of our programming, in particular our Fellows program, where we bring people from different institutions all over the world. So far, we've trained up to 500 fellows from up to 90 different countries. So when it comes to the program itself, we bring individuals from around the world, from different institutions, whether academic, religious, governmental, and train them in interreligious, intercultural dialogue in order to then take those skills and knowledge back to their communities. We also support them with some funding so they can implement projects that aim to address the challenges that they face within their respective faith communities. And this, in a sense, has a multiplying effect because they're able to transmit that knowledge and take it and have it be absorbed within their respective institutions. One of the speakers mentioned precisely the point you raised about how resource-based conflict is sort of one of the main factors pushing conflict at the global level, and that I believe something like 80% of these conflicts are taking place on indigenous lands. And so these issues are all interlinked. Say resource-based conflict exacerbates violence in a specific area that causes displacement of people that then might move to the sort of the urban centers, and therefore then the necessity to design inclusive cities becomes an issue. So these different aspects, particularly in a globalized world like today, are very much interlinked, even not just at the national and regional level, but also at the global level. We can see that with the Russian war in Ukraine and how that spiked up the price of grain and the effect that had in terms of lack of food security within some African countries that relied heavily on the export and the import of that grain from Ukraine. So we can clearly see from the way the world is globalized today that an action in one part of the world has a reaction in another.
If the structural causes are designed to leave people behind, then we must continue to do our duty to mop up and to save people from absolute desolation.
I think coming together and talking about what we have in common, focusing on that. Sure, we'll talk about differences that can't be ignored realistically, but we will do so respectfully, with love.
A lot of these issues are structural, and it's important to address the root causes of these issues. Again, this work is done in bringing the religious leaders close together with policymakers. Give you an example, in Nigeria, we have a network we've built with religious leaders through our Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, which is a Nigeria-based interfaith platform that we developed circa 2016 with policymakers, and they together map policies across the entire state of Nigeria and identify where those gaps are, where policy might be discriminatory towards one faith community or the other, and then together design and build a new policy that takes into consideration the needs and wants of the respective faith communities, therefore increasing their sustainability and addressing what are the structural root causes of that inherent discrimination that might not have been noticed otherwise.
It's building real bridge between society and the government and non-government institutions, decision makers. So be open, be true, be trusted each other. So the most issues is here trust. The both sides have to trust each other and accept this.